So my name is Ed Cadoni. I'm the current editor of the Cranston Herald. Thanks to the Cranston Public Libraries and Ed Garsha in helping me put this together, we're going to be running a candidate forum for Ward 6 council seat. I'd like to thank everyone for being here, especially Mayor Hopkins, Councilwoman Nicole Renzulli, and everyone else whose name I barely remember from having met you once or twice. You can write me an email later, write a letter to the editor for me. I'll print it right in the paper, it's fine. So yes, we have our 4 candidates for the Ward 6 City Council seat here. I'd like to remind everyone that they will be given one by one a 3-minute opening statement to make. When I raise my hand after starting the timer, that will mean you have 30 seconds left. When I put it down, that will mean your time is over. I ask that you wrap things up at that moment and finish it then. After that, we will proceed into a series of questions, almost all of which are from the public of Cranston. And in this particular case, the majority of the questions are for all 4 candidates. People had questions that they'd like to know your answers on everything. There are a few questions at the end, if we have time to get to, that are for individual candidates. There's at least one for each of you. We will get through those, and then if possible, there's a couple more at the end that will be added in, considering that there's time. I've been asked by the library to make sure things here end at 8 p.m. sharp, if not earlier. So once we get through the questions, things will be over. If the questions are not done by 8 p.m., we will be ending then. But if possible, we'd like to have things through the questions by 7:50, and I'd like to give each of you 2 minutes to also make a closing statement if possible. Considering that, I'd like to get things started as soon as possible. So we'll start with Mr. Bachner, and we'll give him a chance to make his 3-minute opening statement. Your timing starts now.
Thank you, Anthony. Well, that's loud. So my name is Mark Bachner. I'm a resident of Cranston for 40 years. I went to Cranston High School West and graduated in 2001. I have a bachelor's degree in kinesiology, and I have a physical therapy degree from the University of Rhode Island, which is a doctorate. As a physical therapist, I learned how to be adaptable and really listen to my patients. So I work with chronic pain patients who really need to regain their function, needed to be held to be optimistic, and also decrease their pain. So on a daily basis, I would have to listen to my clients and apply a plan of care that was appropriate for them. I also run a small business in Cranston, so we're the #1 rated fitness, kickboxing, and self-defense school in Rhode Island. We have 5 employees and many independent contractors. Now, the city is like a business, so you need the skills of a business to help the city grow. I have those skills being forecasting, budgeting, financing, customer service, employee training. So if I'm elected on the council, I'm going to bring these services and these skills to the city to grow. There's 2 things I want you to know about me. Number 1 is I'm running because I love helping people. I love being the voice of people who can't speak up for themselves or don't want to speak up for themselves. I'm also running as an independent because I'm tired of party politics, and I want to vote on just what's best for the people of Cranston and not on party lines. And that's all I need to do.
Thank you for the succinct statement. It's much appreciated. Anthony Melillo is up next for his 3-minute opening statement.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm very pleased to be here and welcome the opportunity to talk about my candidacy for councilman in Ward 6. On the outset, let me thank the Cranston Herald and the Library Board of Trustees for hosting this event. On October 3rd, we have a very important election to fill a vacant city council seat for Ward 6. I have been traveling around the ward, and I have stressed the importance of voting in 2 weeks, either at the polls or through early voting at City Hall. This is an important seat and an election for our city. I am running for council because I believe that my background and commitment to public service makes me the best qualified candidate. I presently serve as the Ward School Committee member. When I'm elected to the City Council, I will continue to be an advocate for schools and education and serve the ward in a broader area of important local issues. For some of you who don't know me, some of you have not knocked on your doors and not received one of my several flyers, let me explain. I graduated from Rhode Island School of Design and have spent the last 30 plus years in the food industry. For 17 years, I was the food service director for the Cranston Department of Senior Services, and currently I work in the private sector at a local food distributor. My public and private sector experience is unmatched by any other candidate sitting here now, and I understand city operations and budget procedures as I did budgeting for 17 years when I worked for the city. And as a school committee member, I have participated in the budget for our schools that accounts for 55% of our current budget dollars. As a long-time Garden City resident, My wife Elena and I have raised our 3 daughters and put them through Cranston Public Schools. We belong to Immaculate Conception Church, and I understand that finances and protecting our tax dollars is the most important thing that the community has stressed to me as I walked around the city. I am committed to making sure our students learn and grow at an excellent pace in a great first-rate school system. Next week, we'll have a formal dedication of the Garden City School, and I invite everyone here to participate. It's actually the 30th, on Saturday the 30th. The neighbors of Ward 6, like Garden City, Dean Estates, Garden Hills, must be kept safe for their families and property owners. As a councilman, I will support our police and fire departments to ensure that they have the resources to properly do their jobs, and that's very important. I know that all taxpayers expect good constituent services, clean neighborhoods, and parks and playgrounds. Our roads and infrastructure must be maintained. Our quality of life in Ward 6 is special to me, and I will always fight for you as an advocate at City Hall. We need to expand our commercial tax base. It's very important for residential taxpayers do not take the whole burden for their tax and quality of life issues. I am honored to have Mayor Ken Hopkins' personal endorsement for my candidacy. He is a great friend and a fellow Ward 6 resident, and together we will work for Ward 6.
Now will be time. Please wrap it up when you get it done.
Okay. In conclusion, my deep connection to Ward 6, my dedication to transparent government, and my focus for infrastructure, public safety, and fiscal responsibility all make me the best candidate to serve your city council person. Together, we can build a brighter future where our community flourishes and every voice is heard. Thank you for your trust and support, and I ask for your vote on October 3rd.
Thank you very much. Next, we will be going to Mr. Robert Lancia, who will be giving us his 3-minute opening statement.
Hi, good evening. My name is Bob Lancia. I'm a lifelong resident of Cranston. I grew up on Garden Street in the Auburn section. I went to Valentine Almy. I went to Parkview when I was a junior high, Cranston East. And I first degree elementary education from Rhode Island College. From there, I did some teaching, went into state service for a short time. Don't ask me how that ever happened. But at 32, I went to seminary and on to active duty as a Navy chaplain. I volunteered at 40 years old to go on active duty. Had a great career, was the first exchange with the Canadian military, worked in Swiss Air Flight 111 disaster, you might remember, and wound up at Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, watching the planes hit the towers, 9/11. I was in almost 18 years, and in a freak accident on my way to Iraq with the Marines. I was the main base Protestant Chapel pastor and the base chapel for all 20,000 Marines. I fell and blew my shoulder apart, and I had to leave the service, came home, taught, pastored, ran for office, and did 2 terms in the Rhode Island House of Representatives. I was very proud of my time there. One thing they said is that, it's hard sometimes to get things done, but during my time in the House, we got beach fees lowered. We got a sex offender bill passed. We fought hard to get the 911 fees put into a restricted receipt account, which we got half of them put in there. And we fought hard for an inspector general to root out waste, fraud, and abuse. I ran a couple of times more for office, but left and am now at PC working on my 5th degree, a Bachelor of Elementary Ed, Master Divinity, Doctor of Divinity, 4th degree in Religion Psychology. My final degree, it's a Master's Secondary Ed, Urban Teaching, Social Studies curriculum. And I'm working with actually some of my professors and the administration in Providence to create an aspirational program for middle schoolers. They have so many issues with the middle schoolers. They say, we have something for elementary, we need something for our middle schoolers. And so we're working on that as well. Why am I running? I think these last couple of weeks have been amazing couple of weeks between the pool and then the Park Theater. And I loved watching the dynamics. And I gotta say, one thing I pride myself on is being able to work across the aisle and work regardless of the party. And to see some of the dynamics and how people interacted with each other, it was enlightening. And we have a couple of issues that I think are very strong, this thing. And I hope that every resident of Ward 6 will come out and weigh in on this election, because I think these 2 issues, the Budlong Pool and even still the Park Theater, and we'll talk more as we go along, are so important, and I want to be part of that dialogue. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up, we will have Dan Wall to give us his opening statement. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Good evening. As said, my name is Daniel Wall, and I'm running for the City Council to be your representative for Ward 6. I'm a lifelong Rhode Islander, and my family and I have lived in Cranston for the last 22 years. I have 2 daughters, Sebastian and Tegan, that both attended Cranston School. I'm I'm very proud of them. They're currently attending university at Emory and Chapman University, respectively. By profession, I'm a teacher. I've taught in the Providence schools for the last 26 years. I've served as department chairman, history department chairman at the Juanita Sanchez High School for the last 15 years. My family found a home here in Cranston, a home that we love. When my daughters went to school, and as I got more and more involved with their education, that ultimately led me to running for school committee. I'm proud to say that I served the residents of Ward 6 for 8 years on the school committee, and 4 years as the committee's chairman. These were not easy years on the school committee. I served through the COVID virus pandemic, all of the terrible problems that that disease brought to us. But I can say that my time on the school committee taught me a great deal about public service. First, to be accessible and responsive, to answer calls and emails. I've literally responded to hundreds of emails and calls. Second, to listen to the people. Their problems and their concerns are your problems and concerns as a public servant. Third, be fiscally responsible, balance the budget, and always watch out for the people's money. And most importantly, be honest. Give people a straight answer. They may not always agree with you, but you owe it to the people that you represent to be honest with them. I'm running to be your city councilor because I believe that Cranston needs a stable and trustworthy city government to attract economic growth, to support our city services, and to promote the high quality of life that we've come to expect. My friends, the scandals of the past months have been an embarrassment to Cranston. I pledge to bring ethical, stable, and trusted leadership and representation to your city council. I humbly ask you on October 3rd for your support, and I thank you very much for your consideration.
All right, thank you very much. The next part of this forum will be entering into the question and answer phase. Again, as I said, I have a list of questions that have already been prepared. Anyone in the audience who would like to submit a question can quietly come down the side here, and my helpful, my helper here, Pam. I'm sorry, I know Vanna White here will be taking your questions from you, and she will be adding them to my pile here. Again, we are pretty close on time with the number of questions, but I will try to put a highlight on questions from the room when possible. And we will get started with that. Each candidate, once a question is read, I will randomly assign who will be answering it first. You have 2 minutes to answer the question, at which point we will end that time and another candidate will be chosen to continue answering it, unless it is a question that I specify as for a specific candidate or candidates. Our first question is going to be, there we go. What is your plan to support small business in Ward 6? I'd like to start with Mr. Wall.
Well, I think what we want to do with small business in Ward 6 is I think we want to create, as I mentioned in my open statement, an ethical city government, not a pay-to-play city government. And also, we want to create an atmosphere where people will listen to it, all right? Several businesses and several things have come across in the last few months and weeks. And as I walk through and I speak to the people in the ward, they're feeling like some of their sentiments and some of their feelings are not heard. Their voice is not being heard, and there's a little bit of demoralization that I'm hearing, all right? If you want good small businesses, it starts with having a good relationship with your neighbors. Have public meetings. Let people know the impact of the business, and they'll be better patrons.
Okay, thank you very much. Next up for this question, what is your plan to support small business in Ward 6? We will have Dr. Bachner.
So this is an interesting question. I'm the only one on the panel who has a small business pre and post-COVID. So I personally know how scared everybody was as a small business in Cranston. The one thing that really stuck out is that as a small business, nobody came to me from the city or the city council to alleviate my fears, to tell me where I could turn, or to tell me that there was any funding that I could apply for my business. So that's the first thing we need to have, is communication between the businesses that are already there, right? Because these are people who bring money to the community, these are people who live in the community, and these are the people who bring options besides the big box stores. I think there also needs to be a liaison who goes out and attracts new businesses into Cranston, right? So we have a guy, a position that does economic development, I believe, in the city. And on the budget, it said there was zero income brought in from him. So, or her, I don't know who that is. So we need to go out and attract businesses into Cranston. How do you do that? You do that by relationships. You do that by talking to people. You do that by asking what they need to come into Cranston. I also believe that you have to be proactive in letting people know that Cranston is a place that will support small businesses. Every small business is like an island, right? As a small business owner, we work more hours than probably anyone can imagine. So I'm responsible as a small business owner, not only for my family, but my clients, my 200 clients, but also the families of my employees. As a small business owner, the risks that we take are immense because we want that lifestyle, we want to change lives. If my business closes, I go bankrupt and my employees can find other jobs. So I really think that the city should have communications with small businesses.
Fine, thank you very much. Next for this question, what is your plan to support small businesses of Ward 6? Will be Anthony Malillo.
Great said. I heard a great saying the other day, high tide floats all ships. And what that means is with good economic development, a lot of surrounding businesses can succeed. And Frank Lopolino currently is our economic development person that works very closely with small businesses, has developed that relationship where he makes funds available to, say, Take It Outside program, where there was some grants available if somebody wanted to build a patio or something that expand their business if they were a restaurant or something like that. And as far as bringing new businesses, there's 3 that I can think of that currently just moved into Ward 6, which my focus is on. We got Christie's Liquors, we have Bank RI, and the Shake Shack. They just recently moved into the city. So I strongly believe the city is open for business, and that's something I'd like to continue moving forward as we continue to move Cranston forward under the Hopkins administration, because I know Ken and I have spoken several times about bringing different businesses in. I mean, we know we have Topgolf that's about to open also in Ward 6, and plans are underway for Costco, which I've gotten several calls that people are so excited, want to know when it's opening. We haven't even broken ground yet. So I'm a Costco member, and I drive to Dedham to go to Costco, so I'm very excited to be having this right down the street. And as far as economic development, I think we just keep the city moving forward, keep working with Franklin Polino and the Hopkins administration to bring new business in. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'd like to hear from our last candidate who hasn't had a chance to answer this question. What is your plan to support small business in Ward 6? Mr. Lancia.
I think the first thing is you have to be out there every day, going door to door, talking to small business people, finding out what their needs are and how you might be able to help them. But then you need to be working with your state reps and your state senators to make things happen. I mean, let's face it, the crushing weight of regulations, cost of labor, the things you have to do to even try to get employees today, it's brutal. And I don't know it. My wife was a small business owner, and she got caught in that dynamic with the jewelry industry where everything went belly up. So understand what that's like to go through that. But we need to be working very close to our small business people. In fact, I find it very hard to imagine lots of times. I say to my wife all the time as we're driving around, I don't even know how a lot of people are willing to open a small business today. There's so much involved. So we need to try to make that as easy as we can, some red carpet treatment if we can. But also, what I see happening is more and more, talk about Shake Shack, Topgolf, the big businesses are crowding out the small businesses. And we got to address that. We've got to talk to small business people and say, how can we assist you to keep you and help you stay open with these bigger businesses, these franchises coming in? They make it hard, and we've got to try to help them. So we need to talk to them, find out what their needs are, and then work with our, again, state and Senate reps and ultimately the governor to make it easier to do business as a small business person. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And for our next question, what steps will you take to ensure transparency within local government? I'd like to ask that of Mr. Lancia again.
Well, transparency, listening to Mr. Wall a moment ago, That's been a lot of talk the last couple of weeks. Transparency, and when did things happen, and who said what to who, and all of that. So that's something we have to work really hard on to make sure that we are being transparent, that we are talking, that we are getting the information. And again, I'm sitting there and I'm listening to people trading charges, who said what, when it was said, when it was done. So the only thing I can say is, I mean, for instance, with the pool issue, it's been going on for 4 years. Well, except for the last few weeks, I mean, boy, talk about something coming into focus. I heard stuff I hadn't heard at all. So I just think that the process, after 4 years, to get where we were going to go, and we got two choices, a large pool or a small pool. And then, at the end, the council says, you know what, we're going to go to a 12,000-foot, no bells and whistles pool. Well, I got to tell you, we're the second largest city in the state. We are one of the 50 most livable cities in the country. We need something better than no bells and whistles. We need something aspirational. And that's a word I'll use over and over again, aspirational. I love what Mayor Picosi is doing in Warwick, fellow independent, pickleball courts, skating at the Mickey Stevens Complex. Johnson has an indoor partial facility. I walk the Bain track in the wintertime. Do you want to be walking on the Bain track in the wintertime? Half the time it's not plowed. You can't walk over the snowbank. Can't we have some type of facility for our seniors? And our young adults too. The pool would have met, one person said, and I agree, would have helped the younger children, but what about our young adults, our young teens? What about our elderly? We need something more aspirational. So these are the kind of things, transparency, yes, let's be transparent. Let's be walking around, talking to people, have constituent coffees, let's find out what people are thinking, and then bring it to the powers that be, and let's resolve those situations as best we can. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up on this question, what steps will you take to ensure transparency in local government? Will be Anthony Malillo.
Being I'm currently on the school committee, something I've done very often is I've attended PTO meetings, and was, for me, I thought it was part of the job. And as I attended these PTO meetings, I was told on several occasions that this is the first time they've seen a member of the government, as they refer to it, showing up at PTO meetings to see what was going on in the schools. And I was surprised by that, because I thought it was, like I said, part of my job. And one of the things that I got from that was not just school issues. There was a lot of other issues that came up at those meetings. So one of the ways I'd like to be transparent is I probably will still attend PTO meetings and speak to the parents. And another reason, I've been campaigning in front of Dunkin' Donuts every Saturday, and I'd like to keep that tradition going, or maybe coffee with the candidate or coffee with the council person. Switch it up to coffee with the council person maybe once a month rather than every Saturday. My wife can have me back. But as far as it being transparent, I see no reason why even something as simple as the issues that arise lately in government, where there's a lot of yelling and screaming, when I know firsthand that if I want to ask the mayor a question, I just either call him up, knock on his door, and I get an answer. And I have the same relationship with the current school committee chairperson. If I want to ask him something, I just call him up and ask him. I don't try to send a press release. I don't bang my water bottle on the table. I make sure that we speak and we tell it like it is. This is what I need to know. Do you have any answers for me? And so it is transparent government, but you have to ask. You have to ask what's going on to get your point across. And that's what I would do. If I have a concern for the administration, for fellow council people, I'll just knock on their doors and ask. Who said that? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Daniel Wall will be the next to answer the question, what steps will you take to ensure transparency in local government?
Well, it's kind of, and I'll bring Topgolf in, because Mr. Malillo brought that into the discussion even before we talked about transparency. We've all walked around Garden City and had opportunities to meet with people in Garden City. And the word transparency and Topgolf, they're not connected. I've talked to people from the Garden City Alliance this year, my last election cycle. I don't think a single person, save maybe some of the people who are very close who have that open door relationship with the mayor, saw the renderings of those towers, those nets with the lights. I haven't met, and maybe I've only met a few, 1,000, but I haven't met one that was pleased with it. Transparency involves having public meetings. Transparency involves letting the public know what they're getting, not letting them know when there's a ribbon cutting. Have public meetings, have data available, traffic studies, let them know what's going to be in their backyard. I attended many PTO meetings, many school events, and those are definitely important. But for good government, you have to let the people in, and they shouldn't have to knock down the door to get the information.
Thank you very much. And last up, but not least, what steps will you take to ensure transparency in local government? Dr. Mark Botner.
So my background is a medical professional as a physical therapist and a business owner. In both of those endeavors, you have to be totally transparent with the other medical professionals so someone doesn't die. And also in the business world, so your employees know what's going on and your clients know what's going on. That all starts with understanding that people respect people who know them, like them, and trust them. So it all comes down to interpersonal communications with other people. I've been teaching martial arts since I've been 16. I've taught every race, every socioeconomic background, every culture. It's really about understanding we're people first and we have differences, but we have to be open, to have that open line of communication to talk to each other. It's really about understanding each other, building the rapport, and having that open door policy. So in government, if I'm the councilman, you can come up to me, you can ask me stuff, you can get a hold of me. I also think that when you do meetings like this, it should be live streamed, it should be on the news, it should be in the Gardens of the Alliance, it should be in the Herald. People get their information in different ways, and if you can't reach them, then it doesn't matter, because knowledge is power. I will say this, I was at the Bud Long Pool meeting, and I respect everybody there, because I believe everybody wants the best, and they think they want the best. I have no problem with that. There is, however, a rift between the city council and the mayor's office. There's also a rift between the Republicans and the Democrats. Electing another Republican or Democrat is not going to solve that problem. I would be happy to be the liaison between both parties and also the mayor's office to talk to people and actually have people work together. Now, if some people are laughing to my left over here, that's fine, because you're part of the problem.
Thank you very much, I appreciate it.
You can have the mic.
The next question we have was submitted by the audience while we spoke. You are all educated, white-passing men. How do you view the needs of the constituents who do not resemble you? Specifically, will you support women and other marginalized populations? We'll start with Robert Lancia again.
Well, as I said, I'm currently working on my 5th degree at Providence College. It's a master's in secondary ed urban teaching, and I took 2 summer courses this summer with 2 very strong African American women, both of my professors. And one of them is the West End Community Center, and the other one at AS 220. And as my wife and I were leaving the class, one of my professors came up. She said, "I know who you are. I know what you've done. Would you be willing to help me create an aspirational program for middle schoolers?" And my wife and I said, of course, because in my role as a state rep and as a Navy chaplain, I've dealt with all persons of different backgrounds, sexes, races, and so it's something that we've done, and we've enjoyed what we do. And so I'm working, again, on that with the administration and with the schools, and we're hoping to do something special. Have a meeting hopefully lined up with the mayor of Providence coming up too, and the head of diversity, equity, and inclusion, Dr. Anye. So we're kind of excited about that. So for me, it's natural, it's what we do. I have to just say, when you see me, you're gonna see my wife. We're 24/7, 7 days a week people. We're out there, we're visiting, we hold events, and people lots of times don't care if I'm there. They just wanna know if my wife's gonna be there. And she's always by my side. So I get elected, you're getting 2 for 1. You'll always have her as well as me. I had to laugh, and I apologize, but you know, we talk about there being this divide between Democrats and Republicans. I get that, you know, and I appreciate your offer to be that liaison, that's great. And I also am a fellow independent, I would hope to be that person who's gonna work across the aisle, but I was asked by the Garden City Alliance, who would you caucus with? You're gonna have to caucus with somebody. So I said, obviously, you're gonna caucus with the group that is in power, because they're the people that are gonna make things happen. So that's why I was laughing, no other reason, but thank you.
Thank you very much. We will be following up this question. How do you view the needs of the constituents who do not resemble each of you? And specifically, how will you support women and other marginalized populations? With Mark Bachner again.
So I think we all need to remember this. We're all people. We all want the same things. We want to be happy, we want to be healthy, we want to be liked. My whole career in the martial arts has been empowering women, either learning self-defense, and these are women who've unfortunately been victims of domestic violence or just afraid to go up. I also have a fitness transformation center where women who are overweight don't feel comfortable, don't feel confident, and they come to me to not only feel better, but also to save their life, right? So I have to make them feel comfortable and make sure that they feel supported. So I have no problem doing that. As a physical therapist, I've worked in Providence and I've worked in Pawtucket. So I've worked with many different races, ethnicities. I've also worked with people from Crossroads. And in every interaction I've had with them, I treat them with respect and dignity. Because at the end of the day, we're all people. And this is the reason I'm running. I love people. I want to help people. And there's really no ulterior motive. I like to be that voice of people that need someone to stand up for them and also need maybe some guidance. And I've made my whole career on that. And this is just the next evolution of what I do and how I help people.
Thank you very much. Next, Anthony Malilla will be answering the question of, specifically, how will you support women and other marginalized populations?
Okay, very good question. And one of the things, first off, I am a father of 3 daughters and 3 very successful daughters. I have one that's a school teacher. I have one that's going to be a doctor in pharmacy. And my oldest daughter, our oldest daughter, lives in California, and she's a movie set designer. She's the rock star. She's got, they'll attest to that, and my 2 other daughters will attest to that. So as far as empowering women, I think I've been doing that my whole life. And yeah, very, very dear to me, so sorry about that. One of the things, and also being in the restaurant business, I work with some very successful women and minorities in the restaurant business. And one of the things they constantly call me for is guidance. I work with Angie Armanese from Blackie's. I'm sure you've all been to Blackie's. She's one of the most successful women entrepreneurs. And I'm sure she won't mind me using her name and letting you know that we work very closely together. And also Angel Amaya of the Trattoria Romanes. So as far as working across, working with people with ethnic background or women, I've always empowered people like Mr. Bachner said, I love people. And one of the things I strongly feel is I like the success of everyone. Not just men, not just women, not just minorities, everyone. I feel good when everybody feels good.
All right, thank you very much. And last but not least this time around, Daniel Wall with the answer to the question, specifically, how will you support women and other marginalized populations?
All right. I too am a father of 2 daughters, who I'm also very proud of, so I understand Mr. Malil's sentiment. But I also am a teacher for nearly 30 years in an urban school district. I work with marginalized populations every day. I'm a good friend with Sonia as well, so I know what you speak of. Recently, I had the opportunity, and I've done it before, to work with Generation Citizen, which allows people from all walks of life, all school districts. It's really important in Providence because every one of our schools are involved. Getting them involved in issues and the political process and advocating for themselves. So I'm on the front line with the next generation, teaching those populations how to be part of the political process, how to advocate for themselves and get things done. So, I do that as part of my work every day. And I think it's very important work, and I'm very thankful for that question.
Thank you very much. I also want to thank the member of the audience who decided to come up and hand in that question. It was wonderful. Thank you very much. Next, and this is something that has been spoken of lightly in all of your answers so far, but this was again submitted by the public, so I'd like to ask it. What is your one main motivation for running for office? And we will be starting with Dr. Mark Bachner. I keep forgetting that.
It's fine, you can call me Mark. No big deal. So I always said I would only run if I thought I could make a difference and help people. I know there's been stuff that's gone on in the ward that's kind of put Cranston in not the best light. But I want to leverage my skills as a medical professional, as a small business owner, as a lifelong Cranstonian, to help those who need help. I think that there's a lot of people who, listen, most people didn't even know what a ward was when I went to talk to them. Most people don't know what government is. Most people don't know that they can just go in City Hall and ask questions, right? So we need to go out and make people aware of the services that they have. And they need to have trust in their city council men and women that they're there to help them. I think when we talk about politics, it has this, negative connotation. I tell people I might be politicking, but I'm not a politician. I have a career that I love very much. I help people all day long. I'm here because I just want to take the skills that I've acquired in my other endeavors and take that to the city of Cranston. Listen, if I can make one person smile because they feel heard, or I can solve somebody's problem because they're 90 and they're worried about that pothole in front of their house, like that's gonna make me feel good, and that's when I feel the most alive. And that is strictly the reason why I am running, no other reason than that.
Thank you very much. Next up to answer the question, what is your one main motivation for running for office? We have Mr. Melillo.
Thanks, Ed. Quite simply, I was, when the position became available to run for Ward 6 City Council person, I was approached by former Mayor Traficante, who said to me, make a list. One side why you should stay on the school committee, or why you want to stay on the school committee, and one side why you want to be on the city council. So I did. I started writing my list. I love being on the school committee. My list was getting longer and longer. Then I started making my list for city council. And one of the most poignant things on that list is Cranston cannot go the way of Providence. And I'm afraid for Cranston that any type of progressive agenda that is put forth with a 6-3 Democratic majority scares me. Quite frankly, scares me. And I'm afraid that we go the way of Providence where there's a shooting every night and a robbery in broad daylight. It's not something I want for my children. It's not something I want for our city. So I was very, very emphatic when I sat back down with former Mayor Traficante and said, I'm running, and this is why I'm running. And that was the most glaring issue, is that Cranston cannot afford to not have checks and balances. And with a 5-4 council, still Democratic controlled council, with a mayor who has veto power, I really think that we could move the city forward and have great checks and balances in place.
Thank you very much. Next up for the question, what is your one main motivation for running for office? Is going to be Daniel Wall.
Thank you. I've been involved in public service. As you know, I'm a teacher my entire life. I admire those people who are in small business, people who are in business, etc. But I've been in public service my entire life. So serving the public, be it in Providence, which I'm very proud of the work I do in Providence, or here in Cranston on the school committee for 8 years. I believe that skill set that I've acquired over the years is going to benefit the people of the ward. And I too, I believe I can be that intermediary because I have a track record working with both parties. I've worked very closely with Mr. Traficante, with Alan Fung, who was mayor, and for a long period of time with Mayor Hopkins. To assume that every Democrat is going to push, quote unquote, the progressive agenda, it's naive. There are moderate Democrats and all levels of Democrats, just like there are all levels of Republicans. It's naive, and to me, I'll be honest, I'm sure he didn't intend it. It's a little insulting.
Thank you very much. Next up for the question, what is your one main motivation for running for office? Robert Lancia.
Well, my life has always been a life of service, whether it's been as a teacher, a pastor, a politician. I like to say public servant, not politician, or as a Navy chaplain. It's always been about service. It's a life of service, and that's why I'm running. I was on a radio broadcast recently at WBRU, the Church Talk program, and the moderator asked me, she said, what do you see the biggest problem in politics? And I said, the biggest problem in politics is selfishness versus selflessness. There's too much selfishness. What is in it for me? What am I going to get out of it? And I'm tired of that. And so I want to jump in. And you know, you talk about progressive. I got the letter in the mail. If anyone else is elected, the Democratic majority will be able to promote a more progressive agenda that I view as not being in the best interest of taxpayers, from the mayor. But you know what, Councilwoman, I grew up in the Auburn section, now I live in the Western section of the city, and she posted something on Facebook. She said that Mayor Hopkins is trying to plant a seed of division in the city between the eastern part of the city and the western part of the city, referenced specifically to the Budlong Pool. Said the western side of the city doesn't want what the eastern side of the city wants. I mean, is that unifying? I don't think so. I think that's divisive. We've got to get away from that. And oh, by the way, we had residents just down the street from where we live, my wife and I, just got flooded out. We need to resolve that situation. Do you realize that goes back to, at least I can find 2018? Kate Walsh was asking Mayor Fung at the time, what are you going to do about the flooding at the Oak Lawn Avenue complex? What's been done? Nothing. That's wrong. This is what a councilman or person in government needs to do, is fix problems. That problem should have been fixed. Those people should have never been allowed or been able to go back into that building. And I guess it got sold a year and a half ago. Should have never been allowed to do that. Shouldn't have been built there in the first place. I don't know how it happens. But look at those people. They offered them $500. I mean, come on. So we can do better. And that's part of what I want to do. And so that's why I'm running. Life of service. Thank you.
Well timed. Thank you very much for your answer. The next question we are going to be going to is, do you feel Mulligan's Island should be sold? And if so, what would be the best use for that land? We will be starting with, I gotta go to a new passage. Daniel Wall.
Do I feel Mulligan's Island, so there's two things here. Do I feel it should be sold? I like, you know, I guess I don't get to make that decision, but I like Mulligan's Island the way it is right now. I actually like it when I could go out and play a little golf there in the par 3. But I was in the neighborhood behind Mulligan's Island, and a couple of the neighbors did ask me that. And I'm going to tell you something, and perhaps I was a little upset by the progressive agenda comment that would be forced upon the ward, and perhaps I didn't address the public servant question as well. As a public servant, my agenda and what I believe should go in to Mulligan's Island would definitely be greatly impacted by what the people who live in and around Mulligan's Island want. And when I get on the city council, I won't be a yes man for any one party. I'll be a yes man for the people in the ward. So I don't think I can intelligently answer that until I hear what some of the people want in that ward. And I think it would be negligent to their wishes and negligent as a public servant if we didn't first consider that. I'm not trying to avoid the question, but that's how I see it.
All right, thank you very much. Next up for the question, do you feel Mulligan's Island should be sold? And if so, what is the best use of the land? Would be Mark Faulkner.
So as a small business owner, Mulligan's Island is a small business. It's owned by people who live in the state. Obviously, they have the right to sell it, right? That's their own right. However, will it affect the people around them? Of course. So could we have a meeting like this so everyone gets together and we come up with a win-win situation? See, when we talk about working together, we're all going to start at different places. It's about talking to each other and coming together so we have a win-win between what the people of Mulligan's Island want and what the people who live there want. Also, I think a good use of that would be to either A, make either affordable housing or housing for people that come into Cranston, or use it as a place where we can add different small businesses, right? A studio like mine, you might be like 1,500 square feet. You have a fitness studio, you have a martial arts studio, you have a dentist. That's a lot of land there, and the owners have the right to sell it, but I do believe that you have to talk to people who live around it, right? Because each neighborhood in Cranston has different concerns. And if they're gonna be living next to that, they have a right to speak up. And the council and the mayor and the owners and the people who live there should be able to come to a decision that works best for everyone. We're all adults. We don't want people to thrive, right? And this is why I say you make decisions based on logic and not emotion. So getting emotional about this doesn't take you anywhere. Make a logical decision, let's have a grown-up discussion, and then let's come up with a plan, be transparent, and everybody's happy.
Thank you very much. Next up for the question of, do you feel Mulligan's Island should be sold? And if so, what is the best use of that land? Is Anthony Malillo.
And I haven't heard any plans as of yet. One of the rumors is they're considering housing there. But like everything else, when I walk the neighborhoods of that area, people do ask what's going on with Mulligan's Island, because, originally that was people saying, "Oh, I know that's where Costco's going. No, I know that's where Costco's going." So without actually having a plan in front of me, it's very difficult to make any type of comments on what it is. But one of the things I strongly believe, as I walk the neighborhoods and talk to people, they just want to be heard. And in a public forum like this is a great idea. But also, like I said, having coffee with the councilman it might be another way to get my point across. But any plans that come in front of me from the city council, before I make any decisions, I will speak with the neighbors in that surrounding area to make sure that whatever plans are there, we have a traffic study or anything that goes along with it, so it doesn't affect them or their property values negatively. And just like everything else, you need to have the input of your neighbors, not just your decision. And one of the things, as I was walking, one of the gentlemen approached me and said, "What do you think of Bud Long Fu? What would you do?" And my answer to him was quite simple. It's not what I would do. I'm not going to govern based just on my beliefs. My governing skills are going to be, what do you want? My concerns are your concerns. And that's something I really believe in, and I want to keep on moving forward. I do that on the school committee now, and I will do that when I get onto the city council. My concerns will be your concerns. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And next up, we will have Robert Lancia to answer the question, do you feel Mulligan's Island should be sold? And if so, what is the best use of the land?
Well, I had a interview with the ladies from the Garden City Alliance, and we were talking about a lot of different things. But one thing that we talked about is the situation on Sakanasa Crossroads onto Park Avenue, Pontiac Avenue, a reservoir. I gotta tell you, at 4 o'clock, try to get down Sakanasa Crossroads. Try to get on 37. Try to get on 95. Try to get on 295. It's a parking lot. So they're talking, oh, well, Mr. Albidi, oh, we're going to add roads, this and that. You're going to be feeding it in to a nightmare. I mean, it's just out of control. Even Reservoir Avenue now, you come off that ramp at 4 o'clock. I mean, traffic's. So do we want to bring another big box into that space? I'd like to keep that space as open as possible. We are really packing a lot into a small area, and it is really difficult, during that time of the day to move or to do anything. And I honestly believe we want to keep as much open space as possible. And, I love the food trucks over there and in the Gulf. And it's just that feeling of fresh air. And I know the residents that are there, when they thought Costco was going there, were not happy about that, thinking about trucks coming late at night. I'd like to keep this area as open as possible because we are packed pretty tight right now. And traffic, forget about it. I mean, it is ugly right now, and put something else there, it's just going to get uglier. And I don't think anybody's going to be happy. I'm not happy now with the way the traffic is. Never mind try to feed anything else into that now. So, yes, thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Making sure I got everyone on that one. Yes, I did. We're good. I'd also like to thank the representatives of the Garden City Alliance that are here tonight. They recently met with me, and we were printing the interview they did with these 4 candidates at the end of August in this coming issue of the Herald. So make sure to check it out to see what they themselves got for information from these candidates. The next question is going to be that some residents citing increased danger in the world and locally of Ward 6 have discussed starting a local crime watch. If elected, would you support this? And if so, what role would you take in the endeavor? We will be starting with Robert Lancia.
I'd certainly be in favor of anything that'll help keep our neighborhoods safer. I certainly want to work closely with the police and to come up with a plan that would work and that would be helpful. it is getting very difficult. You know, we had the sex offender issue, which I was very involved with as a state rep. You know, people concerned, you know, they couldn't get in there till, you know, 5 o'clock at night, they kick them out at 7, and they're wandering, you know, the district. We can't have that. So we need, and I think it was one police officer that was in charge of all those people. So I think, yeah, we want to do something like that. I have no problem with it. Work close with the police, let's set something up, and let's be conscious and careful. We want to protect our kids, we want to protect our young people, and especially our seniors. So many walkers out there. You want to know that you can get out on the street and you're safe. So I'd certainly be in favor of it.
Thank you very much. Next up to answer the question will be Daniel Wall, and the question is, some residents of Ward 6 have discussed starting a local crime watch. If elected, would you support this? And if so, what role would you take in the endeavor?
Well, you know, I'd like to be involved, and, you know, I would also echo what Mr. Lancia said. I think we have to have a closer relationship with the police. I, for one, have been a member of the local crime watch before. I lived in Ward 6. I lived over in Eden Park. My wife and I were both involved. And we had, at that time, this is 20 years ago, in Eden Park, we had a lot of break-ins, a lot of crime. And I'll be honest with you, I saw the impact. We had meetings, we were watching, we had a closer relationship with the police. I saw the impact, and it was very favorable. And, you know, to also echo a second thing, you know, Mr. Lancia and I both worked on the sex offender problem at Harrington Hall. When I was on the school committee, that was something that was very important. I worked with Representative Fusco on a resolution going to all the you know, state members of the state government and the local government to do something about this issue. So now with all that happening, I think it's definitely a good idea that could perhaps prevent the terrible tragedy.
Thank you very much. Next up to answer the question, some residents in Ward 6 have discussed starting a local crime watch. If elected, would you support this? And if so, what role would you take in the endeavor? Anthony Malillo.
Yes, recently I've been approached by Albert Malikian, who currently has a crime watch in Glen Hills area. And, laughing a lot. Mr. Malikian has a crime watch currently in Cranston, and he's very active with 900 people that are members of that crime watch. And he is going to have a meeting towards the end of October. And he did ask me to participate in that meeting, and I plan on participating in that meeting, whatever role he needs. As you know, I'm endorsed by the Cranston Police, and even before I was endorsed by the Cranston Police, I was very much an advocate for Cranston Police. And so I believe a good mix between a local crime watch and the Cranston Police could be very helpful to all neighbors in Ward 6. I know we recently had some car break-ins, and I know the police were very active on it. They're patrolling the streets more often and getting bulletins out, letting people know that there was some break-ins. Not quite in Ward 6. I think it was right on the line 1, 5, and 6 on Rutland Street. The only reason I know that's where my mom lives, and my sister's car was broken into. So I know a local crime watch is very helpful because some of us have cameras on our houses. So if you have a local crime watch that can work with each other on getting some of that footage to the police would be very helpful. As happened in Garden City recently, where there was a crime and the cameras helped capture that person.
All right, thank you very much. And next up and last to answer this question is going to be Mark Bachner. Some residents in Ward 6 have discussed starting a local crime watch. If elected, would you support this? And if so, what role would you take in the endeavor?
Yeah, so my background is in self-defense and what people need to do to stay safe. So I would 100% support a local crime watch, but there has to be training for the people who are in the crime watch. There also has to be an open line of communication between the police and the people who are in the crime watch, right? Because we don't want people trying to solve crimes by themselves. We want to make sure that they have an open line to the police to actually relay information from cameras, relay information, or just to be able to talk to them and be like, hey, I don't feel safe. Maybe you could have a policeman or woman patrol it. But I think with the right training, and people are going to feel safer having that crime watch. Or listen, we live in a knowledge economy. So if we can transmit knowledge back and forth quickly, and we know that somebody went to my house, I went to Mr. Malillo's house, and we have footage of them, then we can solve problems quicker. So yes.
All right, wonderful. Next up, I'm really impressed. I haven't had to use any of my filler question, guys. The people of Cranston really came through making sure they filled out enough questions for these candidates. Next one is, what are your feelings for those who still currently support Trump as he faces over 90 felony charges? We'll be starting with Robert Lancia.
I don't have any thoughts on the matter at all. This is a local election. I don't think it has anything to do with anything. This is the kind of question I think is just inappropriate, so I don't really have a response to that.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Would anyone like to make a comment on this question? I had a feeling, but I couldn't not put it in there. Come on. And we are reaching the questions for individual candidates. First up, just by odds, Mr. Robert Lancia. For the individual questions that are to each of you, you will have 3 minutes instead of 2 minutes to give an answer if you would like to fill that time. You spent years as a Republican candidate and only left the party recently and began running as an independent. Are you still a Republican in all but name?
No, I'm not a Republican in name only or whatever. I am a registered, practicing independent. We each have reasons for what we do, and when you try to work with a party, and things happen, you just have to sometimes move on, and that's what happened. I say I'm the good soldier. Well, I'm also the good sailor, and you asked to do certain things, to step aside, or to support someone else, and take one for the team. And so you can do that for a certain amount of time, but then there's only so much digging for the team, and when you think you may perhaps even be the better candidate. So was just a natural progression, and I am running as an independent. I think independently, and I will practice that way going forward. It's just basically being on the council. Again, I was asked about what party I would caucus with, and I said I would caucus with whatever party is in power. And I think that's important because that's when you're going to get the most done, I think, for your constituents. So that's the basis on which I moved on. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up is a question directly for candidate Mark Bachner. Compared to your fellows who have all had actual experience in city and state government, how prepared are you to take a role in being in charge of a budget worth hundreds of millions of dollars?
So I actually think that me not being a politician and me running a small business on my own without other people interfering actually gives me an advantage of balancing a budget. See, what happens in politics is when you spend too much money, you then go to your taxpayers and you ask for more money. In a small business, I can't go to Susie and be like, hey Susie, I messed up, I need more money today, right? You can't do that. So I have to be doing my budget and financing I do it every Friday. I can tell you every penny that leaves my business. I can tell you every penny that comes into my business. On top of that, I'm also responsible for staff, not only in America, but outside of America. And they rely on me to actually make sure money comes in. So I don't actually think it's a disadvantage of mine. I think it's an advantage that I'm able to balance that. Also, I navigated my business through COVID. So we had a 90% gross increase in revenue after COVID, based on the decisions that I made. So it's not really about politics, it's about being able to make decisions and take massive action to solve problems. And that's really where my characteristics lie.
Thank you very much. The next question is for Anthony Melillo. It is, rumors have arisen regarding the recent passing of one of your dogs. Would you care to address them at all?
I will say this, all I'll say on this issue is since July, there's been despicable and vicious attacks of misinformation posted on several media outlets and mostly propagated by Mr. Wall supporters. And it's really disgusting that this is brought to light. And one of the other things that's very hurtful is the hurt it's brought upon my family, my wife Elena, and my children. This is, and the fact that it's brought to this forum makes it even more duplicable and just keeps me believing that when there's no substance in your candidacy, You have to bring up some negative things and untruths. The untruths that have been posted on Facebook is just disgusting, and like I said, propagated by Mr. Hall's supporters. It's really shameful, and that's really all I'll speak on this tonight.
Thank you very much. I just say some any remarks against this, please save them for your closing statement. Thank you. We're not trying to create a debate. I just want to put that forth. So you can comment if you'd like, but please save it for your closing statement. That being said, the next question is for you. Do you find that support for your candidacy has more to do with Riley's arrest and you not being a Republican than it does your actual qualifications for the position?
Well, I mean, I believe, and I'm sure everybody up on this stage believes they're the most fit candidate for this job. I've proved on the city level that I can do the job. I've served this city and this ward successfully for 8 years. In fact, before Mr. Malone ran against me, he spoke about how great the schools were when he wanted to be on the school committee. I have to take some of that as a compliment to the leadership that I have. And I appreciate that. Do I think Mr. Riley's issues have a lot to do with why we're here today? We'd be naive. The choice of Mr. Riley and the candidacy and putting forth Mr. Riley was a terrible lapse in judgment. And some of the same people are endorsing candidates and asking us to trust them again. So I think those two things are kind of a stew, where I think I was a better candidate a year ago. I think I'm the best candidate now, and I think this opportunity is coming, and maybe it's more obvious because I'm the exact opposite of Mr. Riley.
Thank you very much. Now, there are two, hello? Okay, we're good. There are two questions remaining that have been submitted by the public, one for Mr. Malillo and one for Mr. Lancia. I'd like to go through them in order, and then we'll proceed to closing statements. The first, from Mr. Malillo, is do you feel it has been harder to garner support for your campaign as a Republican after Riley's arrest?
Very unfortunate. Mr. Riley, his crimes were bad, very bad, and shameful, and I'm very disappointed in Matt Riley. With that said, I'm not Matt Riley. I'm Anthony Malillo, father of 3, a husband, a son, who takes that very seriously and takes my candidacy very seriously, and don't compare myself to anyone just to say this is why I'm the best candidate to take the city and move the city forward. My vision for the city is simple. Leave the city better than I found it. I often say I want to plant trees that I'll never be able to enjoy the shade from. That is very important to me, to make sure that I work with fellow Democrats and Republicans alike, because it's not just about, if Mayor Hopkins brings up an idea lately, it's whatever he says is wrong, depending on the party you're in. And I think any idea that is beneficial to the city is an idea that works no matter who comes up with the idea. If we can make it happen and work together, then it doesn't matter who comes up with the idea. I think working together is very important in moving the city forward.
Thank you very much. Our last question for Dr. Robert Lancia? No? I keep thinking one of those many, many degrees is a doctorate. I apologize.
No, it is. It is a doctor, but Bob's fine.
Okay, gotcha.
Bob's fine.
I told you this is my first one. We all have to give me a little bit of leeway on this. Our final question was also submitted by a member of the audience. It also kind of calls me out to a degree, because in an article that I printed after my interview with you, Mr. Lancia, in the August 31st edition of the Cranston Herald, you were quoted saying, You would like to see the U.S. Department of Education, DOED, shut down and their funds divided among the states. There are a couple of questions regarding this that I'm going to read. Feel free to answer all of them however you wish. In your capacity as a council member, would you have any influence to convince Senators Reid, Whitehouse, or Congressman Cicilline and Magaziner to shut down the DOED? DOED is the smallest U.S. agency with the smallest budget. I did some fast and dirty number crunching. It doesn't look to me as though eliminating it would reduce the overall federal budget enough to lower income tax rates. But even if it did result in a rate reduction, that reduction would go to individual taxpayers. It wouldn't be a grant to the states or to local boards of education. It looks as though to capture the amounts generated by an income tax reduction, Rhode Island towns would have to raise property taxes. Is that what you're anticipating? If you need me to repeat it, feel free.
Not at all. You look at the scores in our state, many of our cities and towns. You look even here in Cranston, post-COVID. We have a lot of issues with the expectations of where our students are performing adequately, close, or not at all. And I thought, and I still think, that the funds locally would be much better served than nationally. Let's bring the funds locally and let's use those and let's divide them among the cities and towns to help get our education up where it needs to be. We're still struggling through post-COVID. The mayor, he wanted to access those Learning 365 dollars from Governor McKee. Well, that to me is not a program, it's an idea. You know, it doesn't directly work for the schools. We need to be working directly, getting that money into the schools. And we're saying we may not have enough money. Well, let's take that money from the Department of Ed and distribute it to the states to use and to distribute it among the cities and towns. Specifically, I think, you know, again, with the Learning 365, he wants to do after-school community programs. We don't have enough teachers in our schools right now. Cranston East, which was a lily-white school when I went there, class of 72, is now 97% black and brown. We don't have enough teachers that look like those students, which is what we need to meet their needs, and we need to create a teachers college again. We need to raise those students up. We also need to pay teachers adequately so they want to be teachers. I think a minimum salary of $60,000 for a teacher should be minimum. That's being floated nationally. Those are the kind of things that let's get into the schools, let's take those funds, rather than federally, let's distribute them to the states and let's put them into our schools, help our teachers, and help our students. That's my reason for wanting to get rid of the Department of Education, and no other reason.
All right, thank you very much. I'd like to start before we reach closing statements by thanking all four of you for coming tonight. I very much appreciate it. And I'm sure the people of Ward 6 appreciate it as well. I'd also like to thank the mayor for coming. It was so good to see you, and everyone else in this room who took the time to be here. I see former Mayor Michael Traficante back there. I'm glad to see that you had a chance to come. We will now be entering closing statements. You will each have 3 minutes to speak as you like. We're just going to go left to right and make this easy this time instead of going by my randomized letter list. So first up will be you, Mr. Bachner. Dr. Bachner, go ahead.
I appreciate that, Ed. So maybe it's because I need the mic over. Maybe it's because I'm not a politician, but I don't understand why there's so much divisiveness between the residents of Cranston. We live in Cranston. This is probably the best city in the state. We're all neighbors. Where I come from, the medical community, we work with people to heal other people. We all want what's best for the residents of Cranston. And to have these emotions and to be so divisive doesn't bring us closer to where we actually want to go. We all, I think we can agree on this, want what's best for Cranston. We might have different ideas of what that is, but at the end of the day, we all really want that. So all we have to do is talk to each other and work together. And this is why I'm running, because in my business, I help people. As a martial arts instructor, as a fitness transformation coach, as a physical therapist who's been in nursing homes where people can't hold themselves up to go to the bathroom. I hold them up to go to the bathroom. That's where I come from. So when I say I'm running because I care about people, it's because I care about people. I don't care about politics. I don't even care about the stipend that you get from running city council. I will donate that to the senior center. It's not about that. It's just about helping people, coming together and doing what's right for our neighbors.
Thank you very much. Next up for his closing statements is going to be Anthony Malillo.
Yes. One of the things that was often referenced is that there's a divisiveness between residents of the city of Cranston. And I don't think that's the case. I think the divisiveness is within the city council. I was watching a city council meeting 2 weeks ago, and my wife came into the room and thought I was watching wrestling. There was people yelling, banging bottles, screaming at each other. That's not government. That's not how government works. You know, we have to concentrate on, I heard a great saying the other day, is where it's a seesaw, where emotions are high, logic is low. Where logic is high, emotions are low. So all I want to do is bring logical practices back to the city council. I worked 17 years under the Mayor Trafficante administration and always thought, for the most part, that they always get along. Because like Mayor Hopkins, Mayor Trafficante had an open door policy and met with council people on a regular basis. And I plan on still doing that. I plan on meeting with the administration, meeting with the president of the city council, meeting with other council members to discuss what's best to move the city forward. And that is my main focus when I get on the council, is to make sure that there's no more these emotional meetings that resemble parliament. I was expecting a chair to fly across the room at one of the meetings recently, and that's just between 8 members of the city council. That's where the divisiveness is. I walk Ward 6. I sit in front of Dunkin' Donuts every Saturday morning, and I meet members Wards 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And they're not divisive. The mayor is with me. They have concerns for the mayor, but they're not once banging a water bottle or calling a name out or saying it's their way or the highway. That's not the way government should be run. Government should be run as all 9 members do the best thing for the city of Cranston, whether it be Ward 6 or the entire city. That's what we need to bring back to government. And that's what I will do when you vote for me on October 3rd. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up for his closing remarks, Bob Lancia.
Thank you so much. You're welcome. Well, I'm running. I want to be that independent voice. I want to listen to the people, which has been my history. I want to weigh everything, then make the decision. There are a lot of issues that are facing this city right now that need to be addressed, and I feel that I am best able to address them. Let's be honest. City services are suffering. Try to get a tree cut. Try to get a sidewalk fixed. Try to get a road repaired. It's difficult. Positions have been cut. It's hard to do that. As I'm walking around, one woman keeps telling me about this water buildup she has at her house. We've seen what happened at that apartment complex that should have never been allowed to reopen, never mind resold a year and a half ago. I want to work across the aisle to do best for the people, but to know what people want, yes, you have to be out there walking, talking, holding constituent coffees, and that's what I intend to do with my wife Mary Ann by my side, as she always is. You know, we talk about this fear of progressive turn or whatever. You know, I've also heard from folks that, you know, certain public officials want things a certain way, and they make it clear, you do it my way, you'll vote my way, no discussion. I will not be a rubber stamp for anyone. I will do what's right for the people, and that's the only way in which I'll weigh in things. Not because someone says, that's what you're going to do. I think that happened to one councilman, as a matter of fact, and I think he may possibly do it with a different party. I don't know. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And last up for his closing remarks, with 3 minutes on the timer, is Daniel Wall.
Thank you. Geez, I must have missed the email that said I was going to get a closing statement, so I don't really have any.
It kind of came up last minute.
Came up? I know. I thought I was late this evening. David called me at 6. He said, Daniel, late. Listen, just to finish up, the divisiveness, I have to agree with my colleagues who would say the divisiveness has to end, and there's plenty of divisiveness on both sides of the aisle going on. I reference my track record as someone who's worked with people on both sides of the aisle, someone who's worked with Republicans, Democrats, and Independents. I can put my money where my mouth is. When I was the chairman of the school committee, I'm proud to say, that when there was an open seat, the school committee that I was on appointed both Democrats and Republicans. So I put my money where my mouth is. And there's a reason. I'm solution driven. And I know it's very popular to say that, but the truth is if we walk in this room, and there's going to be disagreements among the people in this room, but we have more in common about what we want in Cranston, even the people on this stage, and we have differences. There are things that we're never going to agree on. If we focus the majority of our time working on the important things that we agree on, that we want good schools, that's the future. That we want a strong police department to protect us if something should happen. That we want a strong fire department in case of emergencies. We want good roads and we want them cleared, city services like that. We want people to keep an eye on taxes, and we're transparent and open about what we're doing. I think we're going to have a good city. Listen, I think we have a good city that I'd love to live in now. But that's not saying that we shouldn't look at some of the issues we have and find solutions. There won't be a Democrat solution. There won't be a Republican solution. There'll be a Cranston solution. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. I would like to once again thank the Cranston Public Libraries and Ed Garsha for hosting us here for tonight's forum. I'd like to thank everyone for coming. And this will officially conclude tonight's Ward 6 City Council Candidate Forum. Thank you all.